Okay, well, the first thing I'm going to say is that one person's difficult patient is another person's proactive, participatory, involved human. So that's a sliding scale, difficult. I will say that I was identified by my own radiation oncologist as difficult during radiation treatment, largely due to a failure of communication. So I'll tag this as the best way to prevent difficult is to communicate as fully as possible and to understand what the level of understanding is on the part of the patient as to whether or not you've communicated fully. Now, perhaps the doctor will not have, the radiologist, rad-onc, et cetera, will not, him or herself, have enough time to spend with the patient to answer all those questions. But each practice, and this is true from general practice all the way up to neurosurgery, needs to figure out how best to communicate all their, like, this is what happens here, in a way that a patient will feel as though they're part of the process as opposed to just what I call a meat puppet, something that's going by the conveyor belt next. Yeah. I am aware, and I think that most patients are aware of what, anybody who gets diagnosed with cancer, for the most part, particularly somebody under 70, is going to go out and get all over Dr. Google and is going to come in with studies and questions. And so, not understanding that that level of interest is going to be present on the other side of the clinical encounter. To label someone as difficult because they keep pressing for answers on something, I think is a disservice. Mm-hmm. But then there are people who just plain old freak out. And if you are dealing with a patient who is freaking out about whatever their situation is, I think you need to figure out what kind of support services will be available for that person and help them and their care network navigate to that support area. Because I think that this is where peer-to-peer stuff really comes in handy. A clinician can only do so much. If I go, say, to an oncologist who has had cancer, that's going to be a whole different level of engagement than an oncologist who just really cares a lot about people who have cancer, but has never actually had that experience, him or herself. So, walk a mile in my moccasins before you label me difficult. Figure out, and have your practice, get everybody in your practice up to speed on communication tools and how to deal with people who are dealing with heavy emotional impact. And then sometimes there are the really crazy people, and they will end up in your practice. But that's a tiny little slice. The average human could end up being difficult if they don't understand what's going on. So figure out how to make it clear what's going on, and you'll make a pathway to a lot less disturbance and difficulty.